I know who you're talking about.
He was like, you can't be a Republican on social media.
Nope.
And what's up, guys? Welcome back to Watchtime. And for the first time in 8 months, Elliot and I are recording from the same room, the same country, the same side of the hemisphere. Obviously, I was in Canada for the last 8 months, and it meant we took our beautiful podcast setup that we have in the other room, made it digital, and now we're back. We're still not back in the beautiful podcast setup.
We got to get all that reset back up again because it kind of got dismantled over 8 months, but it'll be back hopefully next week.
Hopefully next week. But yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, hello, we're in the same camera screen. And if you're listening on Spotify,
my setup's been robbed.
Yeah, but no, we're thrilled to be back in the same room, and I think we're thrilled to be back doing the podcast in person. For me, I feel like it makes a big difference talking in person. For you, I feel like because you're used to recording a lot digitally.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, I was way more comfortable talking like by myself, like just sitting at my setup. Way more comfortable.
Is this awkward for you?
Yeah, 100%. It was really good. I don't like it. But yeah, no. I mean, first week back is actually kind of a slow week in terms of gaming, but a very not slow week in terms of pretty much everything else. Obviously, the election kind of crazy, a little bit insane. Not even over yet.
Over.
I had a thought today. I was coming into the office, listening to a podcast, and I couldn't get the thought out of my mind that, did you ever study World War I or World War II history? And it's so interesting.
Yes, but don't test me on it.
Yeah, but like when you go back and you're looking at all the causes that led up to like something huge happening, it's always like, like the leader of this country was trying to, put some harsh like trade deal terms on this country, and then that snowballed, and then that blah 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 blah. And I was like, man, I could just I don't know what it is, but I could just so imagine in 10, 20 years from now being like, it all started when the election happened. And then from there, just everything snowballs out of control.
Wait, the 2016 election or the 2020
No, the 2020.
election?
I mean, like the aftermath, the way that obviously it's all cumulative from 2016, but like the way that people are handling it, the way people are processing it, the controversy, like the way some people are making like things with zero evidence, the way some people are really like hardcore on one side and hardcore on the other.
Yeah.
The most crazy thing to me, though, is like you've even got news networks like Fox cutting away from White House briefings.
Really?
That happened today. Kayleigh McConaughey, if I said her name right, was doing a press briefing where she's being like, the Democrats love election fraud. And Fox News, the most Republican news network, like mainstream news network, literally cut away. And they were like, we can't show you this. Like, if they come back with evidence, like 100%, that's a big thing. But right now, this is like irresponsible.
Wow, that's a huge call. I mean, it's just crazy that, it's an insane week to say the least. Like at the moment when we're recording this, Joe Biden has been elected. I suppose it's been called for him, but Trump is not conceding and doesn't seem to show any signs of conceding. So
I doubt he will. My prediction, I don't think he'll ever concede. I think there will be an understanding that Biden is moving in and he is going out, and I think he will leave, but I don't think I don't think Trump will ever publicly concede the election. That's a pretty strong.
Damn. Imagine playing games with Donald Trump. Like, imagine playing a board game with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I feel like he'd be like...
So something that I actually found so interesting to go back and watch, because I think that this year it's been so insane. The past 4 years have been so insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes, how like occasionally... something will happen, something will come out, and people are like, oh yeah, like that's a bit weird. But like, we forget that if that had happened under any other circumstances before this new like paradigm of insanity was established, it would be the craziest thing to ever happen. It would be wild. Like, people would be like, how, like, what the hell? Imagine if half the controversies that have happened to like Trump, for example, had happened under under Obama. Imagine if it came out Obama had done like the grab her by the, comment.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been incredible, or like
Yeah.
that he had like a mistress or anything like that.
He set a new
And
standard.
I think that one of the things that, and sorry, I'm not trying to I don't want to make this topic partisan, because I genuinely just find it quite interesting as an Australian looking in. One thing that I found crazy that I watched the other day, I watched John McCain's 2012, I believe, or was it 2008? 2008, no, yeah, it would have been 2008 concession speech when he lost against Barack Obama. And it is unbelievable. Like the night and day comparison is
Classy.
it is one of the most classy speeches I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
I'd encourage anyone to Google 2008 John McCain concession speech, and you just compare the mentality you see there to what we see today. It's actually incredible. But
Monday.
on that topic of not wanting to make things too partisan, it's also a super interesting time for content creators, both
Yeah.
before the election, in the lead up to the election, after the election, because, I mean, like we saw, like, ultimately, you know, everyone exists in their own little bubbles, and you might believe within your own bubble that everyone's behind your party if you're a Democrat, or everyone's behind your party if you're a Republican. In reality, like we saw with the vote, sure, a lot of the young, you know, YouTube audience crew would probably mostly swing Democrat, but there, like, the vote is still millions, tens and tens and tens of millions, 49-51 kind of ratio
Yeah.
between both parties. There's still a huge split. And especially in American politics, the polarization there is huge. So there are so many creators who struggle with the idea of, you know, they might really, really believe it's kind of tossing up your job versus your personal kind of beliefs that you might hold.
Yeah.
And whether a creator is a Republican or a Democrat, it is a really interesting topic and thing to watch a lot of them struggle with. Do you come out and, you know, actually use your influence to try and sway in either direction, or do you just step back and let the chips fall where they may?
And I think that's what we really wanted to unpack is, as a creator, as we look at the creator landscape, which is what our podcast is all about, how do people respond to different things? And I think in the last few weeks, in the last few months, really, it's been really interesting to see how different creators have responded to politics and the election and how they communicate that with their audience. And I think on one end of the scale, you see people that don't even acknowledge politics as a thing at all. They will not mention on social media that there's an election. They will not mention any party. They will not mention any cause that could be perceived as political. They keep it 100% focused on their content. And then on the other end, you see some creators that clearly feel very called to use their audience to, you know, speak out about what they believe in, and they'll be extremely political and
Like
very aggressively.
Casey Neistat in 2016.
Yes, and in 2020, there's been a number of creators that have been very, you know, I feel like on social media you see more pro-Democrat, but I'm sure that there would be people going the other way as well. And I think it's like, as a creator yourself, how do you think about whether or not to speak about politics, and what have you spoken about publicly before? What have you felt comfortable saying, and what have you not felt comfortable saying?
I mean, I think it's quite a interesting thing, because it all comes down to the question of, you know, beliefs versus work, and I think it's 100% fully understandable for people to be like, you know what, I really do strongly believe in, say, Joe Biden would be better for the social fabric of America, but also this is my job, this is what I do. Like, I can't like, you know, like actually throw my entire work under the bus to, you know, try and make one statement. And that's a decision people make in different ways every day, YouTuber or not. I think it's actually, I think it's quite a sad thing though, that the polarization of politics being so acute that, and I think that's what's led to people just being, it's literally like a battle, like a war zone between both sides. It's not a discussion of opinions. It is a war zone. And you can see that so much in the fact that creators have to face this very dilemma. They can't be like, you know what, I personally believe that I think, you know, Joe Biden would be great for the country. And then someone can be like, I mean, I personally think that, you know, the economy is really important and Trump could be more beneficial at a tough time. you can't have that discussion. Like I saw, like it's like as soon as anyone declares that they are for another party, it's like you're disowned, you're gone, you're not. I couldn't even consider like being in your space. And I saw like a really crazy example, which was Jack Courage JD replied to one of Trump's tweets after he was, after he was declared the loser by news networks and wasn't happy about it. And Jack replied, F. Like just, it's like the gaming name, F to pay your respects. And obviously it's like a light dig at Trump, but a very lighthearted one.
Yeah.
And literally tens of replies being like, Jack, I can't believe you've done this. I've been a subscriber for 10 years. I named my firstborn child after you, but now you've really crossed the line and I'm going to have to unfollow you and never watch you again.
Yeah.
And it's like, how are we, like, how it's really sad almost that like, that things are this bad.
I totally agree. I think, and from my perspective of speaking to a lot of creators, and obviously it's been a huge topic of conversation over the last few months, is a lot of creators very much recognize the influence that they have. They recognize the ability they have that when they tweet something, they say something, people will listen, people will engage in discussion with them. And I think on politics, it is, I also find it kind of sad that for many of the creators I work with, most of them will probably say that like, hey, look, I would like to maybe tweet something, but is it worth it? Like, is it worth the massive backlash that I could face, or the fact that my words will be taken out of context? Or I think another really big thing is people feel as though they need to be an expert in everything, or they can't have an opinion on it. And I think this is something actually I was speaking about with Lannon last night, and he was saying, he felt something about some type of topic. And he was like, I would like to tweet this. And he was like, but I'm worried if I tweet that, maybe I don't know enough about the issue. And people will come back and say like, oh, but what about this? What about this? He's like, so better if I just don't tweet it.
Yeah.
And I think I feel like in some ways maybe like, I don't know, I feel like that's kind of a bummer. And maybe, but at the same time, I also fully respect, and this is something that I've grappled with a lot, I'm like, I really believe that if you have an audience, if you're a creator, you are, whether or not you like it, a person of influence. Like, you are a role model for certain people. And I think like, if you feel strongly about that, should you be using your audience for good, or what you see as good, or talking about important issues?
But I think that's quite an interesting ethical question, is just because it is, you are someone of influence, most of the time you're not someone of influence because you have some great unique perspective on politics. Like your opinion, like my opinion on politics is more or less valuable than probably any other random person that you pick. True. My opinion is no more valuable than yours. So is it almost irresponsible for me to just kind of like assume that my opinion is one that like I really need to get out there? Don't get me wrong. It like you can then absolutely counter back on that with no. If you believe in like a strong social issue, or like that's something that's your right to argue for it. But I am also quite conscious of the fact that my view of the world, my perspective, my place is not one that everyone holds. But I did think it was interesting. Quick thing was there was a YouTuber who made a tweet that I thought was really, really funny, saying it's hard living as a Democrat with the bank account of a Republican, or something like that. But it was like a lot of the people that are out there, like a lot of the big YouTubers, and I would say that most large YouTubers that I personally saw, could just be my circle, once again, echo chambers are everywhere, were probably on the side of Joe Biden. A lot of those YouTubers are making well over the 450,000 mark, which is going to have its tax bracket increased under his plan. Yet they were still actually putting their support in that corner. So I think I think once again, it's a really, really tough topic.
It's a tough topic. And as another anecdote, I know someone that's a very large creator that has a big audience. that actually is a Republican. And he was like,
I know who you're talking about.
he was like, you can't be a Republican on social media.
Nope.
And I also think that's a fairly, you know,
Especially,
you can like push against it, but I think that's probably true. I wouldn't want to be.
Yeah, no,
I think that would be really, really
it's
tough.
it's hard to exist like publicly as a Democrat. It's way harder to exist publicly as a Republican in the social media space that we're in. And it like
It's also, these issues are so nuanced and complicated, and you can't just tweet, I'm a Republican, vote Trump this election, because people are going to be like, but what about all this? And he might have a whole heap of reasons for being Republican that are totally valid or based on his upbringing or his values, whatever. It's not for us to judge, but you just can't convey that in a tweet. You can't convey that in 240 characters. And so I think a lot of people probably feel as though if I can't express myself in the way that I'd want to with the nuance that that kind of topic requires, I'm just not going to say anything at all.
You know, whenever I'm like see the election conversation on social media, I can't like comment on it at all. Like you never actually get to see a discussion, a back and forward. And because of that, I think it leaves everything so polarized. What I love is when I'm like, I've got a few like American friends in Australia, and some of them are Republican and some of them are Democrat. But I feel like it's almost like removed from America, takes the like edge off it. And a lot of them, like I was like watching, are able to have like really, really good discussions. Like, you know, the one guy being like, you know what, I think, who's a Republican, being like, I just think that Trump has done such a damn good job on policy. Like the economy is booming. His, he's managed to like broker a relative peace in the Middle East. He's had some really great achievements. And the other guy was like, yeah, you know what? That's actually really, really true. I probably don't give him enough credit for that. But also, like, I don't think he bonds society together very well, which is also critical. And the other guy was like, I get that point. But you can't do that on social media, because on Twitter, where you've got, 240 characters, nobody is going to be able to actually put together a cohesive argument. It's like all you can do is, like, one-liners like, yes, Trump, no Biden. Like you can never really, I think, there's not enough time, there's enough space on a platform like Twitter, where most of this stuff happens, to actually really create anything substantial that would sway an opinion. And
then I think you see people figuring out how they can still activate their audience, because I think, to your point earlier where you were like, my opinion isn't necessarily anything special, therefore should I have a voice? I don't think it's necessarily about your opinion being special. I think it's about your recognition that you have the ability to influence people's actions. And sometimes I think about the fact where, you know, if you're a creator and you're doing things like brand deals or you have merch, you're asking people to take an action on your behalf. And therefore, like, if you're going to do that for your own benefit, perhaps you should also be doing that for a larger social benefit. And then I think it's really, really interesting to see creators like Dobrik, who I don't believe have actually said their political opinions or said vote a particular party. They're just saying go vote.
As an immigrant, I can maybe guess where, given how DACA affected him.
But don't you think that's interesting?
Oh, like, that he hasn't publicly said it.
I totally agree. I'm sure that, like, he is a Democrat. He lives in LA, you know, he's
immigration policy.
Exactly. I'm sure he's Democrat, but he's probably realizing, I don't even need to say it. I don't even need to say vote Democrat. I just need to say go vote. And therefore, I've like used my influence for what is a good cause.
Yeah. And I think ultimately,
you know the result you're going to get.
I think that was the great takeaway this year, and it's something I noticed more than any other year, was creators getting out there, not saying vote Biden, not saying vote Trump, but just saying you are, you know, a person with the power to vote, the power to change things, whichever way you might lean, regardless, your vote is critically important.
Yeah.
And what is even, you know, wilder to me is that, you know, you look at how many people was it that Dobrik managed to have sign up? Because he did the first one with the Teslas, and then he did another one with Leo DiCaprio. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
Yeah, but I reckon...
know the first ones with the Teslas was well over 100,000.
I saw it was up to like 200, 250,000. Let's say with the Leo one on top, he got close to 500,000. when you actually look at that as a percentage of the total vote, that is wild how much he was probably able to actually impact it. Like maybe, like, especially when certain states are coming down to margins of a few thousand, a few hundred votes.
Yeah.
Like a few, like him, especially if you like group a few together, say him, the Kardashian, I forget which one put the thing out. Kylie put a thing out. Like they would have leveraged a few extra million voters. Let's say that like 70 to 80% of their audience, because they're young, skew like, which generally skews liberal, like they could have genuinely impacted the outcome of an entire election.
Absolutely.
Wild.
Absolutely. And that's where I think I come back to the point where it's like, if you know you have that ability, should you exercise it? Like if you feel as though it's the right thing and you have the ability to influence that. I think it's a super interesting discussion.
Other interesting ethical question, because this is something that both Grace and I are aware of, which I'm guessing won't come as a shock to many, is around election time, same way that like advertisers buy ads on TV and political parties buy ads on TV, it's all advertising money. So there are kind of sponsored opportunities that come around for certain parties to basically try and create, you know, kind of positive conversation about Democrat or Republican.
Yeah.
What is your, because I actually think about this a lot as well. And I know it was like a lot of, like, because we had a lot of discussions around it this year because there were a lot of conversation about it happening within the industry. Your thoughts on doing sponsored posts for a political party? Because I was thinking a lot about it and I was like, oh, it's so interesting. Because don't get me wrong, I probably, regardless of the money, could not do a post for the party that I didn't support, right? Because I just think that would be, I think that would just be such a...
You can't be bought with that,
Yeah, exactly. But then the question is, okay, let's say you're a Democrat and the Democrat Party comes along, they're like, hey, we'd love if you did a video kind of just like, you don't have to say like, I want you to go vote for the Democrats, but just being like, hey, like Democrat Party, hey, like this is what they're about, just FYI. Do you think that is something creators should do, could do? Because for me, I was like, you know what? I don't really ever delve into my political opinion, and it would actually almost feel like I'm maybe like cheapening the importance of the message by being like, this is a sponsored message. I genuinely think it, but it's still a sponsored message. Now, that's not to say that you should or you shouldn't either way. But that was like because a lot of people would be like, oh, well, like if you're a Democrat and the Democrat Party's offering to just pay you to say what you'd already say, do it. But
I think it
cheapens it almost.
I think it's almost in a similar vein where, and these are offers that have come across the table a number of times in the last few years that we've been working together, and that so far no creators I work with have accepted, where and the campaigns I'm talking about are campaigns for charity. So this is something that actually I saw Ninja's wife, Jess, tweet about a few months ago, where someone was accusing Ninja of accepting money to promote charity streams or charity campaigns. And she said it's never happened and it's not something I've ever seen offered. I have seen it offered.
Oh, all the time.
I've seen it absolutely offered. And it might not be framed as like a paid post, but it might be framed as like part of their marketing budget or something like that in a slightly different vein. It's something I've seen a number of times, and so far it's something no creator I've worked with has ever accepted payment for a charity post.
Or they do accept the payment and then they donate it back to the charity during the same stream.
Exactly. That would be how it would work, is they might just funnel it back. But most of the time, if anyone's doing anything charity related, they're putting their own money in on top of it, just because it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like aligned with the goal of what is happening. And I feel like for political payments, it's a really interesting one. It's something that I've given a lot of thought over the last couple months, because there have been opportunities that have come across and it hasn't ended up going ahead for us. And I think it's, I agree. I feel like it's a creator to creator thing. And I think there are some creators that are very passionate about politics and talk about it freely for free, of course, all the time. And if they had the opportunity to work with a party, they're clearly an advocate of that party already, and doing additional work on top of that, I think is acceptable. I think it is a bit weird if you don't talk about politics at all. I mean, obviously, you should never accept payment to promote a political party that you don't agree with, as you should never accept payment to promote a product you don't agree with. But I think even when it's a party that you do agree with, I agree. I see how it's a little...
It's hard.
And I think even a really interesting example, which I'm unsure if this was paid, but it was absolutely organised by the Democratic Party.
There was 100% money behind it.
Was the AOC stream. So AOC streamed on Twitch for the first time. She hit huge numbers, I think peaking around 400,000 concurrents, which is the third biggest Twitch stream ever after Shroud's return and the Ninja Drake stream, I believe. Huge success. And she streamed with a number of very big Twitch creators. And I think I was really interested to see that and see the messaging that went behind it. And I think while there was certainly no messaging around, okay, you have to vote Democrat, and the creators that took part didn't say that, they were definitely driving people to sign up to vote. Yep. And they had some talking points around particular
points for the Democrat Party.
For example, healthcare came up throughout the stream.
Hey, I just stabbed you in the back. How would the Democrat healthcare plan help you with this?
It was definitely but
that's a good example, because I think most people from public watched that and they just saw it as like that's
so
really cool partnership. There was absolutely money behind it.
Absolutely.
I don't know for certain. I don't want to claim wrongly that the individual creators got paid. I believe that a lot of them might have just jumped on it for the opportunity, but there was from like an agency perspective, definitely
it was organized.
A large budget behind it. But yeah, I mean, so final note, because I feel like this is a much bigger topic to delve into, and you could go into it from so many angles outside the election versus everything. I do think as a general concept, though, it is interesting. I think obviously it plays into the fact that creators aren't faceless people. They're like, it's all about the personality and the opinion, and that's what differs us. But ultimately, creators are a vehicle from a company perspective to advertising.
Push a message.
And it's interesting how if we were to see a Red Cross ad on TV, all the billboards you see for the Red Cross, all the TV ads you see for a charity like that, they're all bought. Like there's a reason that charities get rated by their ability to transfer the dollars that you give them. If you give a charity $100, how many of that reaches the actual subject? And most charities reinvest the majority of the money that gets donated back into not directly what they're trying to fund. They put it into advertising because advertising generates more money. So it is interesting, though, that the idea of a creator getting paid to do a sponsored Red Cross stream, abhorrent. But the idea of, a TV network getting paid to promote the Red Cross is like absolutely accepted. Don't get me wrong, key differences there that make that the case, but it is just an interesting topic, from politics to that to everything. That's
a really, really good point. I think it's like, is it inherently wrong, or are we just feeling that way because we feel as though creators are people, not just companies?
They're not faceless.
Yeah, I think super interesting. I would be really curious to hear what other people think about this. So if you are watching on YouTube, like definitely let us know below, like whether or not you like it, because I think whether you like it or you disagree with it, because I think the final point would be, like, do people even want to hear about politics from their favorite creators? Or do they like feeling as though when they go and watch a music video, it's an escape from reality and it's not something the way they're going to hear about it? Yeah,
I think as well, one of the...
or feel polarized.
This goes back to the point I was making before, but what sucks is that, like, for a lot of people, this is probably going to sound weirder than it is, but for a lot of people, it's nice when you're watching a creator that you like to, like, it's almost like they're your friend, that your mate. There's someone you're, like, kind of going along with, you relate to, you vibe with.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be this way, and it does suck. But the fact is as soon as you know that they have a differing political opinion, that really compromises that.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't, but it does. But yeah, I think that is a pretty deep dive into the politics around the election and being a creator. Did you have, because I want to end on my topic, because But do you have any other...
I mean, the only thing I wanted to talk about quickly was the fact that 100 Thieves now owns the LA Thieves Call of Duty League team. It was all confirmed over the last few days in like a pretty sick announcement video. It was good. I feel like the 100 Thieves production team always kills it with their announcement videos. They just do it well.
They do it. Their branding is on point. It was also so funny. I don't know if you saw a few weeks ago on stream. I don't know if we talked about this on podcast. We might have. Nadeshot was just streaming COD, and he had a good game, and he was like, I don't know, like, what do you reckon, boys? Might be some room for me on the Huntsman. Like, it basically fully leaked the fact that they got the team early, and he doesn't
on
even...
the Huntsman?
Because that's the team they bought.
No, they bought Optic.
Wasn't it Optic, but the team was called Huntsman.
No, the Huntsman is the Huntsman is Energy's team.
Oh, I don't... Okay, well, he said something that fully leaked the fact that they bought a team.
Okay.
And you literally just see him on stream. He doesn't even try and play it off as, like, a joke or anything. You see him on stream just go, like, oh... and you see everyone else in the call who's obviously also, like...
In the know.
Just go, like, you literally... Because they're on face cam on their own stream. You see him just go, like that. And then be like, What was that you said, Nate? And you just see that, God. But anyway,
Cool.
The TLDR there is Grace called it right, and she's a genius.
I'll be interested to see what happens to the Optic branding, though. Hex hasn't really commented on that yet.
It'll get exploded.
Very interesting to see.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
potential is there that the Huntsman might drop their branding and switch to Optic, given that Hex is the co-CEO of Energy. So... Time will tell.
I think they'll want it all into Energy.
Who knows? We will see.
Anyway, all right. The final topic, which I feel like plays very well into a topic that we've delved a lot into over the past few weeks and almost month now, is we're back on Pokemon cards because it's all... I'm not going to say it's imploding yet, but... It is kind of the eventuation of something that I think a lot of people saw coming.
So as you know, as we've touched on in previous weeks, the Pokemon card craze has completely blown up over the last few months. Over the last few weeks, we've had Lachlan, our good friend, come on, and a couple episodes ago, he spoke all about his addiction and how he felt as though the price of Pokemon cards...
This sounds so deep, like Lockie spoke about his addiction and he shared his problems with us. But yeah.
But how he felt as though the price was being artificially raised.
And to rewind quickly, the reason that this whole recent blow up really started, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's been building a little bit and it's been growing slowly over the past year or so. But what really suddenly kicked into overdrive was Logan Paul was suddenly like, I love Pokemon cards. Pokemon cards are great. He paired up with a guy who was a supposed Pokemon card collector expert who Logan Paul put at the forefront of all his videos. He sold Logan his first few cards. He was Logan's like advisor on what to buy, what to do, what stuff was worth. And since day one, I know because once again, talking to like Lockie and people who are more hardcore in the card scene, most people who actually are in the know in the Pokemon scene, they don't like this guy.
Really?
They
Why?
do not like... He's a dodgy operator, doesn't have much of a reputation, and was generally just seen to be like almost like a hype man, like not really that knowledgeable, not that passionate about the scene, only in it for the money, and also disingenuously in it for the money, going out there and making wild claims that were just so not true to try and inflate the price. Like Logan will pull a card and be like, oh, you know, bro, like, what do you think this is worth? He's like, oh, bro, like, you know, this stuff's inflating so fast. Like, you know, today it could be this, but, you know, tomorrow, like 10 times this, we just can't say. Trying to create an urgency to inflate the market. Yeah. And there have been some key moments that have happened. Like,
run me through them.
When Logan Paul pulled out a first edition Bulbasaur when he was doing that big pack unboxing.
Yeah.
Now, what that card was actually worth was about $5 or $6 grand. Okay. Right? Crazy for a single card. A lot.
It is.
But not as much as some of the cards in that pack can be worth like 200 grand if you get a good Charizard. But Logan pulls the card out and the guy's, oh my God, first edition Bulbasaur, like crazy. That's unreal. Logan's like, you know, like, bro, what do you think it's worth? He's like, oh, you know, man, like graded at 10, like we're talking like 10 grand, 20 grand, maybe 30 grand. And it's just like, number one, What is that range? Like, I'm sorry. Like, you're an expert and you're giving a factor of 300% on its value between 10 and 30 grand. What is that range? I'm sorry. Like, that's obscene. And then also, the fact that he was just so far off on the true value of the card, which is like 5 or 6. So people are like, that happened. It became a big meme. And kind of everyone was like, okay, does this guy actually know what the fuck he's talking about?
Yeah.
But then this happened 2 weeks ago now, I believe. There are a group of YouTubers, I believe they're called like Dumb Money or something. And they're these like 30, 40-year-old guys who just
Good name.
have a few $1 million, and I think they just do dumb stuff. I don't know. I've never heard of them outside this.
Right.
And they were like, oh, Logan Paul bought one of the first edition packs. We want to do a first edition pack as well because we're dumb money. We do dumb stuff with money. That's what we do. That's our brand.
That's actually a great channel concept.
Great channel concept if you've got the money. Not sure about a business concept because it sounds expensive. But yeah, so then they are like, okay, we want to get a pack. They fly in a couple of like Pokemon YouTubers who like unbox packs all day, very good experts. And then they're like, oh, we need to buy a pack. So they actually get in contact with Logan Paul's guy, the collector dude, who wants to buy a pack, who they want to buy a pack off. And anyway, they live stream this whole thing, and they're paying him in cash, like a briefcase filled with money, like the whole shebang.
Okay.
And this guy, and like Logan Paul's dude, like rocks up on the day. He's got the pack like in this bag, pulls it out, puts it on the table, and you know they're just talking. He's like, "Yes, this is the pack," and the guy's like, "Oh, I'm so excited to open this on stream today." You instantly see the like Logan Paul, let's call him Pokemon expert. You instantly see Pokemon expert's face like change, and he's like, oh, I didn't know you were opening it today. He's like, yeah, like on stream. He's like, oh, let me tell you about the pack. So basically, this pack I got off this guy, and he apparently bought 3 of them as a kid, and he's had them in a gun safe for like 3 years, and he told me it's totally legit. Now a lot of the time these packs can be like faked, but you know he's told me it's legit and definitely you know refundable if there was a problem.
What?
And basically, just as soon as he knows they're opening it, starts instantly winding this story about how fakes can happen, and it's totally a thing with these boxes, and you got to watch out. Anyway, apparently he changes the story later about where he got the pack from.
Okay.
They open it on stream. So basically, these packs, for anyone who doesn't know, this isn't a pack. This is a booster box. So each pack is worth like 10 grand. These booster boxes contain like 20 to 30 packs. I forget how many.
Okay.
So they're worth like 200 grand. So there's a big market for if you can find one of these boxes, even if all the cards have been taken out, to buy one of these boxes, fix it up, fill it with cards that are just random crap, repackage it in the cellophane, and then resell it.
And assume that no one's ever going to open it.
And a lot of people don't. They buy the box and they just keep it there on a shelf. They on-sell it to the next person, waiting for it to appreciate, on-sell it to the next person. A lot of the time they don't get opened.
Okay.
They open the pack on stream. He's still, you know, talking about how, oh, you know, these fakes, they can happen. You got to watch out. But like, we should be okay here. And you see the other Pokemon experts, like who are there, like who are going to do the pack opening. And you see, he like hands them the box and they're like, yeah, see, like, it's good that, you know, Pokemon expert verified it because, like, I'd look at these creases here and immediately be like, oh, that's a sign of, like, an opened pack because it's like a fold where the box would normally open. And he's like, yeah, but so what you got? He was sitting in a gun safe for years, so that crease, because this is the heavier part of the cardboard. This is where the crease would appear. They open it. It's all fake packs. It's all bull crap. And you just see him suddenly, like, pulls up his phone. He's like, bro, we got a problem here, man. I'm gonna, you know, like we've opened it and it's not real. Yeah, this isn't good, bro. I don't know, man. You deconstruct his body language. He knew it was fake.
Wow.
So rewinding, I'm super interested. And now, like, I think it kind of like was a thing that happened and people didn't pay a ton of attention to, but I feel like
I didn't hear about it.
Gaining traction. And a YouTuber called Pay Money Wubby, who does a lot of good content like this.
Love him.
Today did a video like exposing it, and man, when you deconstruct that guy's body language, oh, he looks dodgy, which then to bring it back just totally discredits him, which in turn discredits Logan Paul, which in turn discredits all the hype that they've been trying to put
Damn.
into the prices and
It
the value.
discredits the market.
It discredits the whole market, and it's
The end of the Pokemon card era.
I
now.
don't get me wrong. I don't think it's the end, but I think it's gonna really tap the brakes.
Yeah.
I think people are gonna be like, whoa, okay, like
At that top end of the market, for sure.
did I just
Yeah.
spend a Ferrari's worth of money on this
Fuck.
one little bit of cardboard?
I can't think about it.
Like,
It's too much.
Don't get me wrong. I'm all for the whole like investment thing, but you do have to be careful. A lot like Bitcoin when that bubble happened early on,
Yeah.
where you're like, okay, is the value here because people are valuing it, or are they valuing it because people are saying the value is going to keep going up, and
Yeah.
eventually the music stops and someone's going to be left without a chair.
Yeah. Shit. Oh, that's a good place to leave it.
Yeah.
Don't let it be you.
Don't let it be you. Make sure
Logan
you're
Paul.
on sell before then. But yeah, we're back in Sydney.
We're back, baby.
Same setup. Hopefully we'll have the proper podcast room going next week, which should be very, very good.
Hopefully you're happy to see us back together. We're happy to be back together. And let us know what you're liking on the podcast, what you want us to talk about next week, any guests you're interested in us having. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.